I hate having to do this video at this time, but if I fall away from the faith, Carly, my spouse, is going to be monumental. The church is going to have to prove they wanted to save my spouse this entire time. And it's going to be hard for them to prove that, because they never did one thing to try to help my spouse. And my spouse is hurting. And even one of the first videos I did over the last month and a half was, I don't think this church cares about my spouse. And the evidence is that they do not. Now, if I fall away from the faith and they come in like a flood and try to save Carly, then it'll show that they're guilty. That they know that my spouse needed this help and that I needed this help. And that now that I fell away from the faith, they're just trying to fix everything. But the question looms. Why didn't they do this back in 2016? Why didn't they do this back in 2013? They're going to have to give an account for that. If they come in like a flood and help Carly after I fall away, then why weren't they willing to help us before? They're guilty there. And even worse, and I don't even want to think this or even say it, but I have to. If I fall away from the faith and Carly doesn't endure and she falls away from the faith as well, it is 100% on the church and Jesus Christ and God the Father's will that they are guilty of Carly falling away from the faith. It'll be proven. See, the whole church justifies himself and says, well, if Scott didn't screw up, he wouldn't have fell away from the faith. But you can't say the same thing about Carly. You're going to lose the Carly argument one way or the other. Whether you try to be hypocrites and save her at the last minute, or if she falls away from the faith and you look guilty, you're going to prove to be hypocrites. Because you can't use the same argument. Carly didn't make any mistakes. And you knew that we needed help all the way back in the day. So long story short, you haven't seen this all the way through. You haven't thought it all the way through. Carly falling through the cracks is not a good thing for this church. And it's not a good look for this church. Like I said, this church can justify themselves with me because the world hates me. Hates me absolutely. But my spouse, Carly, didn't do anything wrong. And she's really in the thick of things at this point. It's not good. And this church justifying themselves with me being against me is problematic, because there's something else there. It's not just me, it's also my spouse Carly. And like I said, it's going to prove you guys hypocrites if I end up falling away and you come in like a flood and you try to help her. Because why didn't you do that before? Now you're just trying to save face on your end. You always knew I was married. You always knew I had a spouse. So for you guys to come in like a flood and try to fix that, it's because you're guilty. It's because you're guilty of not receiving us back in the day. You're guilty of not receiving us in 2015. You're guilty of not receiving us in 2013 and 2011 on YouTube. You're guilty of not receiving me after I wrote Sally Captivity, and Carly as well. You're guilty of not receiving me after I wrote Sally. You guys are guilty of that. And that guilt is going to hit like napalm. It's going to hit real hard, and you're not going to be able to justify that one. And this is the one that's going to hurt the church, because you're going to look like hypocrites. You're finally going to be found out. You're going to be found out.